Hello, welcome to another Linux Terminal Commands for Beginners tutorial. For this video I will be talking about moving and renaming files with the mv command. Let's open up the terminal. The move command moves files and directories from one location to another and can also rename them. First I'm going to start by cding into a directory I created, cd mv ls. Let's start with a simple rename of the file lorem to ipsum. mv lorem, the name of the file I want to rename, and ipsum, the file's new name. ls, now lorem has been renamed ipsum. We can also do this with directories. mv cat, the name of the directory I want to rename. Dog, the directory's new name. ls, now the directory cat has been renamed to dog. Now let's move files from our current directory into another using relative and absolute references. First I'll start with something simple. Let's move directory dog into directory C. mv, the name of the file or directory I want to move, in this case dog, and the directory I'm moving it to, directory C. Keep in mind, directory C is a relative reference because the directory I'm currently on has directory C in it. Now lsc to C, we move directory dog into directory C. Now let's do a slightly more involved example of the mv command with a relative reference. Let's move the file ipsum to a multi-level directory, elevator. First let's check and see how deep the directory elevator is with the ls recursive list command. ls-R for recursive, elevator. So basement is the deepest directory in elevator. Using a relative reference, let's move ipsum into the directory. mv, the file we want to move, ipsum, the directory we want to move the file to. Remember, we're using a relative reference, so we start at elevator and move our way down, top floor, middle floor, and the bottommost directory, basement. Now let's check and see if the file is in the basement directory using the ls list command. ls, elevator, top floor, middle floor, basement. And we see we moved ipsum to the basement directory. Now let's use an absolute reference to move the directory elevator into our home directory. mv, the file or directory we want to move, in our case, elevator directory, the address, home/Cauchy. Remember, this is an absolute address for the user Cauchy's home directory. We can access the Cauchy's home directory regardless of what current directory we are on with this address. Now let's check to see if the elevator directory is moved to Cauchy's home directory with the ls command. ls home/Cauchy. And there we see, elevator has been moved to Cauchy's home directory. It's pretty simple to move and rename files. However, there are two options that I think are important to talk about before I end the video. -I for interactive option and -V for verbose option. Like I mentioned in earlier videos, interactive option gives us a prompt allowing a user control before an action is performed by Linux. -I interactive option is important to use with the move command, since like cp, mv can overwrite files. If you rename a file into a name that already exists in your directory, that file will get overwritten by the file you renamed. If you move a file into a directory and there's a file with the same name, it gets overwritten. The same goes for directories. -I interactive option prevents that by giving prompts before terminal takes action. -V verbose option just outputs line by line what the terminal does. It can be useful if you want to keep track of moving a large amount of files. Let's start with an example of -I interactive option. ls. Let's create a directory D. Make dir D and move it into directory C. Note, there is already a directory named D in directory C. ls C directory D. I did this to show the -I interactive options prompt. mv-I, the directory we want to move, D, and the directory we are going to move D to, C. We get a prompt asking to overwrite the D in directory C with the D we are moving to C. Press Y, enter for yes. Had we not included the -I option, interactive, D would have automatically been overwritten without notice. This could have been bad if the directory D was already in C and had important files in it. Now let's do an example with the -V verbose option. ls. Let's move the C directory into home/Cauchy. mv-V for verbose. C, the directory we want to move, home/Cauchy, the directory we want to move C to, and here, verbose outputs that we are moving the C directory to the home/Cauchy directory. This concludes my Linux Terminal for Beginners tutorial, moving and renaming files with the mv command. For more information on the mv command and more options, check out its manual page, man mv.
Here are some more Linux for Beginners videos. Also, please like or subscribe, but only if you want to. And lastly, thanks for watching.